All right, so the unit we are getting into is radicals. The word radical is when you see those roots. We are going to do square roots and cube roots. First, a very tiny little bit of vocabulary. Bless you. So when it looks like this, we have this A, B, and C. If you have a number sitting out front, that is a coefficient. Same thing as before. If you see a 4x, 4 is called the coefficient. If you see a 10y, 10 is the coefficient. So the number that's in front of the radical, this is a radical or a root, is called the coefficient. That's not a new word to you. You guys know that one. All right, this is going to be new. The number that is in front of the root, like the really small one, is called the index. Hey guys, this is the part where I'm explaining to you how stuff works. You got to listen to this or you won't know what's going on later. We're going to do care now.
Is that 2% coefficient?
Yes. But I'm not going to grade your spelling. So, all right, that's called the index. And I'm going to go ahead and just explain this right here. If there's no index written, then it's understood to be 2 and it is a square root. So if you don't see an index, like if it just looks like this, do you see how that's a square root? We don't put a little 2 there. Yes. I just didn't get to that yet. I was explaining about the index. C is called the radicand. It's a radical. The stuff underneath it is called the radicand. You won't ever hear me use that word. I'm just explaining to you what it is. I usually just say the stuff underneath. But on the SOL, they like to throw vocabulary at you to throw you off. If they say the radicand of this blah, 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 it just means the stuff underneath. That's it. Okay, so don't let that mess you up. Now you have to extra listen to me on this part, because if you don't get this, you're going to be sunk for the entire unit. Okay, these are your perfect squares and your perfect cubes that you're going to either need to know or be able to generate a list of, and I'll show you how to do this in the calculator. All right, 1 squared is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. And so the square root of 1 is 1. That sounds really basic, but that does mess people up, so be careful with that. 2 squared is what? 4. So if you go backwards, your square root of 4 is 2. Now you could probably fill in the rest of this without me saying much. I'm going to go through a few more and then you guys can just go like list them out. 3 squared is 9, so the square root of 9 is 3. Do you see how I have them written here? Yeah, 4 squared is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. And again, you can use your calculator to get all of this. I'm going to stop saying them at this point. Do you see how it just goes in order here? But I want you to go and fill this in so that you've written it at least once. It is healthy for you, like eating your green vegetables. You'll be okay. Now, I usually say if you know up through 12, you're doing okay. However, you do understand that numbers are infinite, right? Those go on forever. I don't really expect you to have them memorized, but I expect you to be able to use Desmos. Could you type in 13 squared and figure out what that is, and 14 squared and 15 squared and all that? Yeah, I mean, they do get a little overwhelming because the numbers are going to get large, but you have a calculator, so you can always just type it in. Yes, or was that just a stretch? Okay. I am going to pause this real quick and write those on the board. So from now on, every single thing we do for the rest of this unit, right next to your name, I want you to put that list for your squares. Now we're going to do the cubes. 1 cubed is 1. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And so the cube root of 1 is 1. 1 is kind of like 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, which is not 6. Is 8, and the cube root of 8 is 2. They just going forwards and going backwards. 3 cubed is 27. It's 3 times 3 times 3, and so your cube root of 27 is 3. Again, I want you to go on and write them out. I only go through 8 on this one. But 4 cubed is 64. The cube root of 64 is 4. 5 cubed. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. Your cube root of 125 is 5. But you do need to know some of these numbers. And if you don't know them, that's okay. You can type in your calculator. Sorry, I can't write and talk at the same time. You can type 5 cubed, 6 cubed, 7 cubed. You can type that in the calculator and generate that list. Let me show you what I mean. Can you all look up here? Because you're going to need to be able to do this. You can type 4 cubed. Do you see that? and then 5 cubed, and 6 cubed, and 7 cubed. Do you see how you can make this list? You don't have to actually memorize it, but you have to be able to get these numbers some way, somehow, because you're not going to be able to do anything else. So let's go ahead and flip over and do some actual problems. You're going to need that list behind me. Yes. All right. So when you see the square root of 18, and this is very process driven, you guys are going to get good at this if you listen to me. What you're going to do is draw 2 little houses. That's how I say it. Oh, and some of you are even looking back. I think you know how this is going to go. What you need to do is come up with 2 numbers that multiply together to be 18, but one of them, and some people are always like, well, they want it to be both. No, only one of them is going to work. One number has to be from this list, the squares list. Why would I pick from the squares list and not the cubes list? It's a square root. Okay. Do you see a number on that list? 9 times 2 is 18. Now, what I always get asked at that point is, Miss Cole, why isn't it 3 times 6? Well, is 3 on that list? No. Is 6 on that list? No. Those are dead end numbers. You need to pick a number that's actually going to work, that's going to take you further in the problem and not be a dead end. Now, if you didn't know it was 9 times 2, I've got you. Can you listen to me? You're going to take whatever number is in the square root, which in this case is 18. You guys will get good at this too, because you're going to do it for every problem. 18 divided by x. See how I did that? You're going to take this little gear and hit the table. Gear table. And if you go down to the bottom of the table and just hit enter a few more times, it'll keep generating the table. And then you can find it on there. Do you see right there, 9 times 2? See that? All right. So you can always use your calculator, and you have to clear this out every time you start a new one. Now, why did we pick 9? Well, what is your square root of 9? Because that one's going to work. And I usually check off the ones that work. Yeah, flip it back over. Square root of 9 is 3. And so your answer is 3 square root of 2. One of them's going to work and one of them's not. So you reduce the one that works and the other one just kind of sits there. If you were like, hey, I didn't quite get this, we're going to do it again. So draw 2 little houses. You need 2 numbers that multiply together to be 20. One of them has to come from this list. 4. Good. 4 times what is 20? 4 times 5 is 20. But if you were like, hey, Miss Cole, I didn't get that, or I didn't know that, look. Are you listening? 20 divide x, gear table, hit enter just a few times. Do you see it right there? 4 times 5? There you go. Now we picked 4 because it's going to actually work. You don't want to pick dead end numbers. What is your square root of 4? 2. So it's 2 square root of 5 is your answer. This one is different. What's different about it? It's a cube root. You're going to do the same thing, but you need to put that little 3 index on there. And this time, what list are we looking at? Cubes. Do you see that? You need a number from this list. Good. Whoever said 8, that was quiet. Was that you? Good job. So it is 8 times what will give you 16? 8 times 2. And we picked 8 because it's on the list. That means you can cube root 8. What is your cube root of 8? I saw a lot of you flip the paper back over and look. Cube root of 8 is 2. Do you remember how to type cube root on the calculator? CBRT. Good job. Let's try a few more. 36. You don't actually need to split that into 2 houses. Why not? It's already on the list. What is your square root of 36? 6 is the answer. That's all you got to do. So if it comes out perfect, which there's actually another one on here that's going to happen with. Can you find it? It's a cube root one. Do you see it? I want to see if you can find it. Yeah, do you see this one right here? Cube root of 27. Your cube root of 27 is just 3. Believe it or not, people get those ones wrong because they think that there should be more to it than that. If it's a number that's on the list, then it's perfect. You don't have to do that. All right. 60 is not on the list, though. We're going to draw 2 little houses. I'm going to show you one more time. Next time, I'm going to ask you how this works. You do that number divided by x, gear, table. And then you just hit enter a few times. You don't need to do a lot. Can you find a number? And it doesn't matter if it's on the left or right of the table. It could be in this column or it can be in this column. It does not make a difference. But you need a number from the squares list. Well, it's never going to be 1. 1 doesn't help us at all. So you need something. Do you see 4 on there? 4 and 15? With me? So you're going to put 4 and 15. And the reason we picked 4 is you can actually do that. It's not a dead end. What is your square root of 4? Is 2. Good job. I love that you guys are flipping the paper back over and looking. That's awesome. We'll try a couple more and then I'll give you a little break because you guys are focused for me. All right, this one is a cube root. You do the exact same thing, but you have to put the little 3s on it. Build yourself 2 little houses. And I'm going to type it in. Now, how does it get typed? What am I going to type? 54 over x, gear, table, and I'm just going to hit enter. If you actually, it's already there. Do you see it? You need to look at the cubes list. Or somebody say 27 and 2. Good. So I've got 27 and 2. And the whole point of choosing 27 is it's not a dead end number. You can do that one. What is your cube root of 27? 3. So again, 1 works and 1 doesn't. Yeah, go ahead.
Does it matter, like, where the mistakes are?
I usually put the one that's from the list first, because that's the one that's going to work. Good question. All right, let's do one more and then I'll give you a break. All right, draw your 2 little houses. You need a number from that squares list that goes into 300. Oh, it is 100. Good job. 100 times 3. If you can figure it out without the calculator, that's great. And your square root of 100 is 10. So 10 square root of 3. So this one we've got 99. Draw your 2 little houses. And I will go ahead and share my screen. We're going to do 99 divided by x. Gear table. You don't want to hit enter too much. Like, I mean, a little bit. You need so it's 11 and 9 is the important number because that's the one that's on your list. Okay. So that's to answer that question. Did you guys all hear the question that he asked back there? It doesn't technically matter where you put them. But do you see how I put the one that's on the list first? Because that's the one that's going to actually work. It's me here. All right. So what is your square root of 9? 3. So it is 3 square root of 11. Hey, you guys were focusing so well before, then we did a break and it's all gone now. I need you to come back here. What? Oh. All right. 30. Can you guys look up here? I'll go type it in. Look. Can y'all focus for me? 30 over x, gear table. And it'll never be a decimal. Like, do you see that 4 and 7.5? It's never going to be something that's a decimal. 5 and 6 aren't on the list. So do you notice how nothing's working? There is not a number on the list that will go into 30. Guess what that means your answer is? Square root of 30. It means you can't do the problem. It's an undoable problem, and so you just leave it alone. Let's try 45. This one's going to work. Draw 2 little houses. Oh, 9 times 5. If you have good number skills, like you know your times tables, you're not going to have to rely on the calculator as much. But you can always type it in. 9 times 5 is 45. Square root of 9 is 3. You are going to start to need to know some of those square. Like if I say, what's the square root of 25? You're going to have to start to know some of those. I mean, you can always use the calculator, but it's going to be a big pain to have to pull up the calculator every time. All right, so draw yourself 2 little houses with 3s in front. I will type this one in for us. Now, this has a negative. It just means your answer is going to be negative. Don't worry about that. It just means you're going to have a negative in your answer. I'm not going to bother typing the negative in here. I usually don't. Just means you'll have a negative in your answer. So I'm going to make the table. Which list are you looking at? The bottom one, the cubes. So can you find a number on that cubes list? Do you see 125 and 4? So we're going to do 120. Well, actually, I'll put negative 125 and 4. the negative, it kind of doesn't matter. Just put a negative in your answer. Now, can you flip back to the other side of the paper and find your cube root of 125? 5. It's just that it's going to be negative. Just throw a negative in your answer. All right, we got a couple more. 12. Draw two little houses. You need two numbers that multiply to be 12. One of them's got to be from the squares list up there. Can you guys focus for me in the back there? It would be 4 times 3. And the whole point of choosing 4 is that it's going to work. Square root of 4 is 2. So 2 square root of 3. These last two, do you see how they have a coefficient? I need for you to listen to me. That number is just there. It's just there. So when you build your two little houses, that 3 is just there. It is just, that's it. So 200, you need numbers that multiply to be 200. One of them has to be from that squares list. It'll be 100 times 2. Good job. See, you guys are getting it without the calculator even, which is good. So the 3 is there. You can even put a little multiplication dot if that helps you. So what is your square root of 100? 10. And you get one extra step. You're going to multiply the 3 times the 10. So it is exactly what we did before. The 3 is just there, right? So 3 times 10 is 30. So if you have a coefficient, you get one extra step in there. So for this one, that 2 is just there. Draw yourself two little houses with 3s out front. And I will go type this one in for us. I don't actually know what this one is. Actually, I think I know what it might be. So 320 divided by x. Which list are we looking at? Cubes. Let me hit enter a few times. See if you can find it. I know it's a little bit small if you're in the back. Do you see the 64 there? 64 is on the list for cubes. Are you with me? 64 times 5. And the whole point of doing that is your cube root of 64 will work. You can put 2 and a little dot. The 2 is just there. What is your cube root of 64? Flip back over the paper if you don't remember. It is 4. But you can type it in the calculator, or you can flip that paper back over. And then cube root of 5. And you just get one extra step where you multiply these together. So 2 times 4 is 8.